Best community support. The nominees are Apex Legends, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy Online. What is it? Final Fantasy? Is it 14? Final Fantasy
Yes,
14
14.
Online.
Mhm.
Fortnite and No Man's Sky. We already immediately have somebody in the chat giving Final Fantasy 14 a shout out. Trip Fantasy is saying Final Fantasy 14, they better win. Feel free to tell us why in the chat, and we'll come back to you after we give our picks. So, Alex, how about you? What are your personal and predictions?
I'm right there with Trip Fantasy on both. I voted for Final Fantasy 14. I believe they'll win it. Just the continued listening from Square as to what the game needs to implement, and it constantly being implemented with every big expansion that comes through. The game is ever evolving and ever changing for the good. I mean, hell, the base game of Final Fantasy 14, A Realm Reborn, was a response of Square listening to its its fans and its community and re-releasing a dead game, building it from the ground up and making sure it works. So I mean, I don't know what kind of how you can have a stronger community than that. So
Yeah. So Final Fantasy is my prediction to win. Um, for all of those same reasons, it really is. I don't know if underdog story is the right word, but it really is the comeback story, I
mhm.
guess, when it comes to MMOs, because it was dog shit when it launched, and the fact that
Absolute
they've
dog water.
yeah, and the fact that they have brought it back from the dead, and so intensely so that it is the biggest MMO ever now.
Yeah.
Like in terms of player base, surpassing World of Warcraft, and it just crazy. It's insane. So my prediction to win is Final Fantasy. However, oddly enough, it's almost a similar story. My personal vote is No Man's Sky, and the reason why is very similar to Final Fantasy. It's a game that was kind of dog shit when it launched. It got a lot of bad press. It like people were really concerned about the game, and they have really turned it around. And to this day, they have not released an expansion or an update for the game that costs money. And I think that that is amazing. They have added like a shit ton of features that are game changing without charging a single dime to their player base. And I think that that is awesome because
I mean, along does that drive the community because it's free, or it just
um,
nice the game is free,
well, it's
not the
not
game itself,
just
but the
so.
things being
Not
added to.
only do I consider that to be a good token of faith to the community, just saying, "Hey, here's this content for free," but it is content that people want. They're listening to
Mhm.
fans, and now they're beyond the point of making good on the promises that they made, and
Mhm.
now they're adding things by having conversations with their community and saying, "What do you want? What do you need? What are some quality of life changes? What are some like pie in the sky dream updates that you want?"
Mhm.
And they have implemented a lot of these things. Like it's the game is just like it's turning into like, remember when the game was announced and people were like, "This is my dream sci-fi game," and then it launched and people were like, "Oh," and
No Man's Sky.
now I think it's kind of becoming the dream sci-fi game. Like they're adding all of the things that people want. Now, it essentially is sort of like a space MMO. They keep building on to the multiplayer aspect. They've added more like economy features and not just base building but world building. There's uh, pets and ships that you can raise or grow. It's like weird, but there's all kinds of different things that you can do, and I think that that's interesting, and I think that deserves a shout out. And all of the updates have been free, which is cool.
Mhm.
um, Now to go back to Trip Fantasy, they said that Final Fantasy 14 better win because they actually give a shit about the game. He said the death of the game is embedded into the lore, even. So
Yes.
the failed launch is actually part of the world's story,
Mhm.
which that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. That's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I predicted that they'll win, and I think they definitely deserve it.